Alright guys, so I'm having a lot of trouble with my editing software, but I'm gonna go ahead and just start off the video right here for you guys via my Premiere. What's up guys? Good new year. You guys have been asking for it, so let's do it. Here's a Warlock guide. First we'll go over perks and skills, and then we'll go over our spells, and then from there we'll go into my kit, what I run, that help me be successful, so successful in the dungeons. So let's go ahead and start off with our perks and skills. So I like to go Torture Mastery Warlock. In my opinion, I think Warlock might be the weakest of the spellcasters, but that doesn't mean it can't compete with the rest of the spellcasters. From the last time I played Warlock, roughly a wipe or two ago, prior to the semi-semi wipe, you were able to get a lot of magical healing. You were able to get up to 21, I want to say roughly magical healing. I think 23 in uniques. But yeah, they nerfed magical healing a lot. And by a lot, I mean a lot. So now, most of the time, the max you can get from magical healing is roughly 17 in uniques, I want to say. Roughly 17 in uniques, yeah. But yeah, so I go Torture Master, Vampirism, Soul Collector, and Anti-Match. And of course, I go Phantomize. And then from there, the spells I like to run normally when I'm in the dungeon is I mostly play trios and I also play duos. And, there's always a time and a place for a lot of these Warlock spells. You can always switch it up however you want and however you deem fit. But I like to go Curse of Pain, Power of Sac, Bolt of Darkness, Hellfire, and Hydra. Oh, Kidney, why don't you go Weakness? Well, a lot of times when I play Warlock, or why don't you go Spell Pred? Why don't you go this or that? Why don't you use these other things, right? This right here is what I use that works the best for me, right? For me, this is the most optimal loadout. The reason being is so I have my curses to heal, and then I have my burst of damage, my dark bolts, and then I have my chase. When you play against, classes that like to play on doorways mostly, the best thing you can do in those fights is to break down doors. So that's why I bring Hellfire because I feel like Hellfire is not only good to like shorten the amount of time in fights, by just breaking the door, I go ahead and just break the door myself. So with that being said, I have Hellfire to not only chase, but for an escape. A lot of times I play triple DPS nowadays, so let's say for whatever reason I get displaced by the other team, or I played like an idiot, so I have to get out. So that's why I have Hellfire to Hellfire doors and to also like stop playing door and door because I like to get extremely aggressive when I play Warlock because that is the best way to play Warlock, is as aggressive as possible while minimizing the amount of damage you take and putting out as much damage as you can. That, and then of course, everyone's favorite, Hydra. Hydra is good for so many different things. Like, people don't even understand like the uses for Hydra as much as it could be used, right? You have doorway blocks, you have peel for your teammates. One that I really don't see a lot of people do, but you can peel for your teammates with the Hydra by displacing them or displacing enemies by dropping a Hydra. And more likely than not, I'll have a clip in this guide where dropping a Hydra can save your teammate's life. And then yeah, I mean this is what I use. You can always find a reason to use Curse of Weakness. Curse of Weakness is extremely good. I think Curse of Weakness is extremely good. The problem is for me, a lot of times when I go into raid and stuff like that, is like I'll play with like a wizard and a ranger. If I'm playing with the wizard and ranger, that's a lot of burst damage. My wizard is most likely gonna be running melt if I play with the wizard ranger. So I don't really need curse of weakness. What I need to do is I need to just get in there, get as many curses as I can, and then my teammates clean up for whatever reason, or things like that. Another viable option for when it comes to bringing in curse of weakness is what you can do is you don't need hellfire. You don't need hellfire. You can take off hellfire, and you can go curse of weakness. Why? Because let's say you're playing with two meatheads, like a fighter and a barbarian. You get initial poke off, and then you toss weakness, boom. It's the same thing as like getting melted in that sense. And your frontliners, your meatheads can just go in there, guarantee winning the box because A, they have a curse up, B, they have weakness, and weakness is a lot of like just stats just gone. You lose roughly when you put weakness on like other frontliners, they lose roughly like it could be anywhere from like 15 HP, maybe more, maybe a little less, and then 15% PDR is gone. Like that's a lot of like PDR loss. That goes from, let's say fighters have 50%, now they're 35%. They're as squishy as bards, and it's one of those things that just sets your team over the top. There's always a case for a lot of these. Let's say for some reason you're a West player, right? There's a lot of buff ball teams on West, so you're tired of getting buff balled. I would even say take off Curse of Weakness and just go Spellpred. You know, remove the Druid buffs, remove the Bard buffs. These are all viable options. Yeah. So I would go Spellpred if there's a lot of buff balls and you're just getting tired of getting ran down by buff balls. Go Spellpred. I would do this. This loadout's not bad at all. Let's say you're losing a lot to casters, right? You're losing a lot to casters, you don't know why, and you just like you're fed up. You're fed up because there's so much burst in the game. And you feel like you're not able to heal or things like that. I would just suggest, I mean, Eldritch Seal is still viable. Eldritch Shield is good. I think Eldritch Shield is good. I maybe wouldn't go this loadout. To each their own. Like your playstyle is for you. I think Eldritch is good only going into other casters. But I would personally just go the spells that I normally go, which is like, Dark Bolt, Hellfire. I the thing about it is the way I play is although I play extremely aggressive, I also play for doing as much damage and letting my team clean up. Or I do as much damage as I can, and when I know I've done enough damage, I'll kill them with the 3-stack Dark Bolt. I just get them out of the fight. Because a lot of times, if you get a double curse off on, like, let's say, like a rogue, if you get a double curse off, so Pain Sack, you hit them with the 3-stack Dark Bolt on, like, let's say the head, they're either dead or they're absolute 1 HP. So that's also another thing that I like to do is I like to, when I fight very specific classes, I know how much damage I do and how much HP they have left. So that's what I usually do. Those are my perks and skills. You can always go however you like to build. Other people like to build different things. I think Flame Walk is amazing, but the thing about it is if you remove anything from Flamewalk, it would have to be Hellfire, and Flamewalk is just really good for if you hate the ice caves like me, I would go Flamewalk, but I just go Hellfire because it kind of clears also. You know what I mean? Like they both clear. The thing is, for me, Hellfire also has more utility, so that's why I do that because I also hate when people play doors when they're clearly down. For me, I love having doors open. Like if there's doors, that's good for me. But if there's a team that just like I've done a lot of damage to and they play a door, then I'll just blow the door down. I'll be okay. I'm gonna blow this door down. But if you're a warlock and you're going off flanks and stuff like that, having doors open is the most important things that you can do. So that way, let's say you get caught or something, you can just unphantomize on the doorway, close the door, hold the door. That way they don't come through. Then just run away. You have another door. That's why I don't see a lot of warlock. I mean, in general, there's not really a lot of torture mastery warlocks, but for the most part, you should be playing the way I'm describing. It's just hyper aggressive, minimize the amount of damage you take while outputting as much damage as you can. Understanding team comps, understanding what what perks and skills they're running on the enemy team, saying, hey, yeah, this barbarian has Rage Achilles or Savage Roar Rage. Like these are all little things that you need to do when you play this class. Is just understanding like, hey, okay, this is what I'm going up against. Okay, I know I have this kind of matchup. Like my odds are like 70-30 against this guy, right? Or things like that. Little things that help push you on top when playing this class. I'll always tell you about magical healing on this class is the more magical healing you have, the better for your class, right? I would always recommend the max magical healing. And the reason why I say that is because, depending on how far along you are on your warlock journey and playing the class and things like that, if you're more of a novice, I'd recommend the more magical healing. Why? Because the more magical healing, the more opportunity for you to stay in the fight longer. I stream a lot, so and I like to stay in like get in, get out of the raid, go back in as fast as possible because I love making a profit. I love playing the game, and I love to just the faster the queues, the better the games, things like that. Some people ask me, hey Kidney, why do you go Lego spellbook with one mag healing? Well, this is what works for me more. Like this is the most optimal thing for me, right? It's like I'm not gonna go an epic spellbook for one less magical damage for one more magical healing. That makes sense. I'd rather do a little more damage, although Warlock doesn't do as much damage, like unless you build a lot into it, right? I I like to go one mag heal on a Lego spellbook versus two mag heal on an epic one because I just need that damage. So that's what I recommend. But for the most part, if you can get a two mag healing spellbook, by all means do it. If you don't have enough money for a Lego spellbook, then by all means go an epic one. But the more magical healing, the better. That's just how the class works. That's that's how it is for Torture Mastery. The nice thing about Warlock, you can build it however you want, but for me, the thresholds I like to hit when I'm in a normal kit that I run in dungeon, I don't run anything crazy. People will think, yeah, like, oh, these streamers like to run, crazy biscuits and things like that. Nah, not really. I mean, I try to play as optimally as I can while like staying on I would say like relatively a budget because Warlock is playing Warlock is extremely expensive, man. Like that's one thing I will say. And for someone who does not see like Torture Mastery Warlocks at all, like ever, it's really nice to be able to kill one who runs relatively the same amount of gear, the same kind of gear as I do. Because a lot of people build differently, and they have different kits, things that are like off-brand, like items that I just wouldn't use. But for the most part, finding someone who does have gear that you like is always a huge win. Other than that, like I usually just sell all the gear I get and I just make my Warlock kits on my own. So with this video, I'm not gonna gatekeep, but there are things that you will learn once you do play enough Warlock. For the most part, I can tell you guys and I can show you guys as best as I can, but replicating that is gonna take time and you have to put the hours in the class in order to make it work. Not everyone's gonna wake up and be pose level rogue or let's see, Mesology wizard level, like no one's gonna wake up and be that next best thing just because they know how to build a character. You're not gonna be the Via Apollo of wizard. You're not gonna be, the promos of ranger just because you have gear like them. When you put the amount of time and effort into a class that you do, the more time you put into things, the better you'll be as a player. I'm gonna try to show you guys as best as I can. Like this is how I build. This is what I normally build. This is my budget stuff. I'm not a rich player. I'm not a hippo like Fred. I try to do my best, but I also do put a lot of money into my kits. The way the meta goes in the game is like you can fold over in 2 seconds if you're not mindful. Wiz has melt. You get zapped once, one arrow and you're dead. Being mindful of just the little things, like let's say there's a famine, you get hit by a famine, you're completely out of the fight for 15 seconds. You're almost useless at that point. Being mindful of everything is what's gonna get you go above and beyond in the class. You are essentially the most aggressive caster. You should be the most aggressive caster. Even I would say even more aggressive than wizards. The reason why is because you're this annoying caster that just won't stop poking. You get low, you run away, pop a red pot. You get hit a blood bag, you go back in. Wizard, you use a couple spells. Fuck, I don't have enough spells to keep going this fight. Now I gotta sit. Now I gotta heal. Now I gotta sit. Now I gotta, do these things that Warlock can't do. Warlock, I get low. Red pot, blood bags, boom, back in the fight. Way faster than if you had to hit a clarity pot, have to hit a surge kit. You do these little things, you go back in. That's the biggest thing about Warlock. Although it might not be the best caster and people argue, "Oh, Warlock is so broken. Warlock is so this." You got to understand, Torture Mastery Warlock is not as good as people will think. And people will argue otherwise, but it's really not. You fold over just as fast as any squisher. And they nerfed the class very, very hard. You used to be able to get 23 magical healing. They nerfed the class for about like half. I want to say half from Lego gear. I'm saying I think you can get 21 to 23 with just Lego gear. If I want to say like 21, yeah. You get like 21 with Lego gear. I have 13 without Buck right now. You see what I'm saying? I have 14 here, right? 15 is my max. That 5 magical healing is a lot of magical healing gone. It's not the easiest thing ever to play as aggressive as you can. A lot of times you'll see me in my fights. Sometimes I'll hit a bandage. It doesn't hurt hitting a bandage. Some people will be like, "Oh, why are you hitting bandages?" Honestly, it's better to hit a bandage sometimes. You have only one curse up, hit a bandage. Sometimes I'll do that. Like, let's say I only have one curse up, but I need to get back in the fight. I'll hit a quick white bandage. Okay, cool. I got that extra like 20 HP, however much it is, and I'm back in the fight again. I don't get me wrong. I do goon a lot for curses and things like that, but at the same time, when you're playing with the team, you're this really aggressive character, and you just gotta go in, go in, go out, go in. Right? Sometimes you'll learn over time. It'll take a lot of times dying when you're playing this class to understand. Okay, I cannot goon an extra spell. I can't get an extra spell in. I just gotta phantomize. If I'm 40% against a ranger, I sometimes I'll goon for an extra spell just so I can hit it and then hit phantomize, right? But sometimes it's better to just like, okay, I'm low. I just gotta fan. Sometimes I just gotta go. Sometimes you do just have to go, you know? The more you stay alive throughout these fights, the better it is for your team and the longevity of things. And with that, I build a lot of HP. People will be like, okay, well you're not fast. Okay, I don't need to be 330 move speed with 125 HP or 130 HP. No. I like to build a lot of HP. Why? If I get rogued, I'm not dying in 3 stabs. I'm just not dying in 3 stabs unless I get triple headshot. And if you're getting triple headshotted, A, your movement's bad, or B, the guy is extremely cracked. I don't really die to rogues as much as you would think. And the reason why is because the second I have eyes on a rogue, I make it my sole job to pretty much walk up to them and get a curse off. Because if I stop the rogue from going invis, then that means we win the fight as a team. Even if they have like a ranger or wizard. Little things like that is like what will help you play the game more efficiently. If I see a rogue, I will personally go and take a one with a rogue. Why? Because if if I'm full HP or I only shoot like, one or two curses, right? I know this rogue is not going to kill me. The amount of HP I have, right? Even if he would have to build a lot of action speed and even more than like most normal rogues can. On top of that, like my movement stuff is even if he cutthroats me, the most he's going to get is 4 swings. He's not going to kill me in 4 swings unless he hits me with 3 headshots. If I'm getting hit by 3 headshots, my movement's bad, or I put myself in such a bad position that it's like I'm not walking away as he's swinging at me, or he just misses a bunch of swings. So I get a quick reset. I just phantomize, right? If I eat the cutthroat, it's fine, right? If I eat the cutthroat in front of his full team, like let's say it's a ranger, like a fighter, it's not a good day. If I eat the cutthroat and they don't have LOS of me, better for me because now, okay, cutthroat's off. Okay, my team doesn't have to worry about a rogue cutthroating them, right? Because, I mean, that's half the rogue's kit. Half the rogue's kit gone. He can have invis, right? No cutthroat, that's fine. You can play like there's no cutthroat anymore, right? Now we can fuck his teammates and then move on to him. You see what I'm saying? We'll go into how I build, but for the most part, is right. I like to build a lot of HP. I like to build roughly like 150 with stacks. Usually like 150. Sometimes I get away with 145 because like I'm used to playing the class. I don't really need like less. I like to go with at least 145 with stacks. Yeah, 145. So that's how much HP I build. Minimum 145 usually on a lot of these kits. I like to go like max health bonus or max health on the book, of course. Here are my stats normally. 140. I have 36 and a half spellcasting speed. I always have spellcasting speed on my book because I like to be as close to 40% as possible, if not 40% spellcasting speed. That's what I'm comfortable with, and I like to sling spells as much as possible. You know what I'm saying? I'm at 7.5 action speed. This is a little low for me. I usually like to have like 8%, be a little bit more. I like to shoot for 10% action speed with stacks, and the reason why is when I shoot spells, the hand motion on 10% feels almost instant. So that way, when I do charge up my spell right, and when I go to release it, the hand motion is fast enough to where it's almost instant. Versus, let's say I have like only 7%, 8%, you'll see a delay in hand motion cast time speed. Yeah, so that's what I like to build because If my curses aren't instant, it feels off to me, and if my curses feel off to me, then it's gonna be a tough time for me to play the game. So that's what I like. I usually build like 317 MS. People will argue you need more, but I think what feels most comfortable to you. I feel most comfortable when I'm 317 to 320 move speed without stacks. When I do have shards, I'm roughly like 320 MS. 320 MS is pretty good. It's 310 with your book out. That's how I build. I'm usually able to just run away from anybody. My fence is pretty good. You know, it does make like 1v1 matchups a little more difficult, but for the most part, if it's you and 1v1 another guy, unless it's a rogue, the chances are they're not gonna kill you. You sometimes I have more MR, but like this isn't bad either. I'm like almost what is this? Almost 50% MR, 20% mag power. Usually in all my kits I have like 20% mag power or more. The thing about Warlock is I'm not saying damage doesn't matter, but if you're trying to go damage Warlock, I would just go life drain. If you want to go build more damage, by all means go build more damage. Damage is never fake, but the thing about it is for me is like I would rather have more HP than more damage. Because if let's say I'm 135, right? 135 with book out after stacks, and I'm like 30% damage. That's not going to save me from a rogue. The damage is not going to save me from a rogue. I'm not a wizard. You're not a wizard on this class. You see what I'm saying? This is not a burst class. Like, yeah, you have dark bolts, but you have to build into that. See what I'm saying? This is a longevity class. This is a class where the longer you play the life, the more effectiveness you get out of your your character. Healing, healing, healing. Taking damage out, healing that damage, and doing more damage. See what I'm saying? So, those are my stats. 14 mag healing with book out. Yeah, let me go over the pieces for you guys. This kit cost me roughly, let's see. This kit roughly cost me about 10,500. This is roughly around like where all my kits cost. My kits cost from anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20k just on the normal. Those are my normal dungeon kits. It's expensive, which is why I don't like dying. This is the most optimal and like cheapest I can go while always making a profit whenever I do play duos or trios and loose kits. Here's my headpiece, my neck, my chest piece, cloak, rings, gloves, padded, boots. I would recommend, this is one of the things that always makes your class viable is you always need Troll's Blood on Warlock. Without Troll's Blood, it's pretty hard to play the class. I'll be quite frank with you. If you don't always have a red pot and a Troll's Blood up at all times when you fight, then it's gonna be hard for you to play. And then of course, like I just grab a random crystal sword. But yeah, so you're gonna want a TV for all your fights, at least all your fights where like they're geared. Okay, they're geared. Pop a TV. It's worth. Even if you lose the value of TV, it's better you do pop one than not popping. But yeah, sometimes I bring better heals. That way, I heal for more quicker. Like it's always really good. I bring bandages because you never know when you're gonna need heals or your teammates gonna need heals. And then of course your prop pots. That's how I build. This is the budget I'm on. I don't always go these pieces. I do like to go leather chassis. I do like to go leather chassis, and I do like to go robes. That's sometimes how I differ on kits. This is kind of like a more like cheaper kit, more optimally made. But for the most part, this is how I like to build. I love to get 3 statters on my pieces because 3 statters is where you need as many stats as you can on Warlock. So if I go like padded or if I go leather chassis, I'm gonna go like double HP. In this case, this is knowledge HP, so that's 2 stats. Right here, 8 double HP. Like getting as many stats as you can where you need them, while still getting the stats you want is like that'll work, and that's how I say it works for me. This is just a quick cheap kit I made that I would run on HR with my teammates, and I won't have to worry about like, was I overgeared, was I undergeared? No, this is how I build it on my kits. You have to go 1-all on all the rings because 1-all is like what gets you the stats you need, right? That's my kit. Those are my stats for Torture Mastery. Alright, so you guys see me play a lot of plate spells Warlock. So this is why I like to play in trios sometimes. This is what I played in trios when I wanted to make a profit during SSF. I played plate spells Phantomize. Although I wasn't as fast as I am in a lot of my kits that I am now the market is out. So this is how I build now for plate spells. So I roughly look for about 150 HP. I try to go at around 310. This is for, just solid kits that like I could run, make a profit off of. I have 34% on my spell casting speed, 40% PDR, 30% MR, 20% mag power. So the thresholds that I normally look for on these kits is roughly 310, 150 HP or more, roughly 35 spell casting speed usually with book, hopefully more because I get stacks. So I'll be roughly 40% spell casting speed with stacks, okay? I shoot for 40% PDR because the purpose of plate spells is to be a little more tanky and to get in there, get damage, and get out. That's pretty much the premise of this. This is kind of like Torture Mastery Warlock without the Torture Mastery, and you're able to soak up more damage because you are tanky, right? You also have that MR, that 50% MR with anti-mag, 40% PDR. You can go up there, walk up, not worry about just getting one-shotted by a ranger or two-shotted by a ranger at that, right? And then you have roughly the same amount of damage as you do on a Torture Master Warlock, except your plate. You're this tank who dishes roughly the same amount of damage. You can get in, get out, and this is how I build spells plate with Phantomize. Usually go max health, spellcasting speed, damage. Just now that you build spells plate, right? You don't need magic healing on everything like you do Torture Mastery. So all ats, of course, Warlock needs all ats. The reason why I go top film is for that headshot damage reduction, because I'm so much more tankier than I am in TM, I can swap to Crystal Sword and get the boxing a little bit. You know, although I have these stats and things like that, right? I don't go in melee until I absolutely have to go melee, right? Or if I need to peel, let's say I'm playing with a wizard or ranger and they need peel, I go in there, I box my crystal sword, and then I hit my fan button and I get out, and then I have peel. I peel for them, they peel for me, kind of thing. Quick resets with the Hydra life drain, and then my spells right here. Sometimes it really depends. I can go. This is what I have when I play with more more meatball players. So let's say I'm fighter, barbarian, play warlock, right? This is what I would run: pain, weakness, bolt, Hydra life drain for the quick resets. If I don't go that, if I go ranger, wizard, I go curse of pain, curse of sack, Hydra life drain, dark bolt every single time. So you're pretty much as fast. Normally, like as you're pretty fast. You're fast. You have HP. You're tanky. You can get in, get out. The reason why I don't use Bach in this is in today's meta, like if you try to go melee someone, it's kind of a bit useless unless they're like running a meatball comp where it's like just brain to W key. Other than that, this is just I walk up, hit a curse, walk away, get some weaknesses off, set my team up, just get really aggressive. I can go in there, I don't have to worry about rogues. If a rogue jumps on me, I'm gonna end up getting out just fine. I'll probably be either half or 30%. Rogues won't really kill me like that. So a lot of times I'll just frontline for my team while also casting spells and just getting in there. Triple kite, triple long range is busted. And this is what made me so much money during SSF, except a little less optimized, of course. But this is the most optimized version. You can get more mid max, like you can get up to 320 ms, and I can show you guys how I do that. But for the most part, you don't lose as many sets as you do normally when you run Torture Master, Like this is my 320 ms kit right here. I'll go ahead and swap it on. boom. I'm roughly 320, almost 150. A little less PDR, which is okay. A little less casting speed. Same about MR. Positive base power. Yeah. So I'm pretty much super fast, just as fast as my teammates, and just as effective to get in, get out, and not die to a rogue. It's extremely. This is one of those things where it's like you can play fast, you can play slow. It's a very niche build, but it's super effective, and I usually make a lot of profit off of these kits. So that's what I would recommend if you're gonna go play spells. You know, I don't play BOC. I don't like BOC. Just the way the meta works, right? You can go BOC spells with a buff ball, like a druid buff ball or a cleric buff ball. You can go spells BOC. But for me, because I play only triple kite for the most part, I just like to go spells Phant, almost like a TM Warlock. This is what I like. I'm fast. I'm tanky. I won't die to a rogue. I have teammates who can also peel for me. That's just how it goes. But yeah, that's how I build this. Hopefully you guys try it out, enjoy it. You know, a lot of people have been asking me, Kidney, when are you gonna make a blue kit, like the most optimally blue kits you possibly can for Warlock? So here we go. Here's the most optimal blue kit for Warlock. That Warlock is like playable, and honestly, it doesn't even feel playable just because Warlock needs like way more stats, honestly. All right, so here's the full blue Warlock kit. This is what I would recommend. 2 mag heal, spell casting speed on the spellbook because you need as much mag heal as you possibly can. I go true mag in the rings instead of mag healing because you need damage somewhere. But for the most part, you go max HP on these rolls, right? Knowledge everywhere that you can. Here I go HP, right? 2 knowledge on boots, 4 move speed, 2 knowledge, 2 big gloves. This is the most optimal Warlock kit that you can go in blues. This is how I build it for blues. So you're left with 130 HP, your 317 MS, your 33% spellcasting speed, and then the other stats don't really matter. What really matters here is like some HP, a lot of move speed. This should be enough. No one in blues is usually this fast, but there are characters like Rogue and Barbarian that can like maybe catch up to you. Here's my most optimal blue kit for Warlock players. I would go blue Crystal Sword. I wouldn't really care what stats you get, but yeah, most optimal Warlock kit for you guys right here. This is for Torture Mastery. I don't play spells BOC. This is just TM. Alright, so I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples of like different Warlock tech. So there's a couple of different things. There are so many uses for your Phantomize.
Yeah,
I'm going to show you a very specific use of your Phantomize that you can do against Wizard players. Where, let's say, right, you're up, you've done some damage with curses, or, you know, you're watching them play, right? You have damage off and Phantomizing at the right time. There are moments where you can Phantomize, dodge a spell in the process, and get close enough to a wizard or other players to where you can go into melee range. I wouldn't recommend it for certain classes, of course, but this is more so like a counter to wizard. Once you've done damage, once you're full HP, I would recommend it at any other time. But I do use this, and I do it in the dungeon very often, more often than you think.
Yeah, I could tell.
But usually it only depends on the class. Like if I know that the ranger's like on his last arrow, or wizard's casting a fireball, and I know he's gonna cast something that I can just easily dodge and I can get in his face, then I'll do it. So this is one of those examples.
No, it's very good. Oh my god.
Next, another thing for warlocks, another tech that I would say is like very big is a lot of people don't know, right? That when you fight another warlock, you override their spells. So let's say a warlock is cursing mobs. If you curse those same mob, you take away their spell, they don't get any healing, and they lost HP casting the spell. The thing with Torture Mastery is the spells are double. So when a warlock casts Pain or Sack, right, they lose 8 HP versus the normal 4 HP. If they cast Hydra, right, that's 24 HP versus the normal 12. So this is a big thing to keep in mind for when you fight other warlocks, is if they drop a Hydra and you take their curses, then they're going to be down a lot of HP and a lot of healing. So I have another example of that in this clip that I'm going to show, and you'll see me override his Goblin. You'll see me override his Hydra, and then you'll see I'll be able to
The
create so
Warlock is
much
low, by the
space
way.
and pressure because the Warlock is probably half, or the Warlock is 60-70%
Warlock on
because
left.
I took all those spells and I'm full HP and I have
Fighters
advantage
choked up.
going into the fight.
Yeah, fucking absolutely annihilated
Another
them.
example of like different things that you can do on Warlock, there's a bunch of them, but I'm only going to show an example of a couple, is door blocking. When you chase someone, you door block them. I'm not going to show that because I feel like that's very common with Hydra block. It's the same thing as you would do with the Treant, same thing as you would do with a Golem. It's the same thing, right? You can go Hydra block people in doorways and things like that. But I'm gonna show you a reverse Hydra block. So reverse Hydra block is right. You're getting chased by, let's say, like fighter, barbarian, anything like that, right? They get close enough to you to hit you, right? You drop a Hydra on the floor in between you and the enemy, which creates a bunch of space. Let's say you're in a doorway, boom, he's off of you. You walk away, you get your space, right? You can get your reset, or you lock him into the room with you, and from there you just Phantomize. You Phantomize away from the Hydra. And then from there, boom, you have space. You don't have to worry about getting aped by that character. And this is something I also do in the dungeon. That's everything for the Warlock guy. We went over spells, perks, how to properly build with solid gear on relatively a budget, and as well as blue gear, plate spells, what I normally run in the dungeon, as well as small techs that you can do that'll help set you above the rest of these Warlock players, such as taking curses, Hydra blocking, Phantomizing during spells, when spells or arrows that get casted at you that you can just dodge easily with the Phantomize to get in someone's face to get up close and personal. So those are just the different kinds of things that you can do playing Warlock that I described to you and showed you in this video. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments and I'll get to you as soon as possible. But that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed.